Welcome to Global Connections on ThinkTech Hawaii. I'm your host, Jay Fidell. Today, we'll talk about the global impact of social media. How is it changing and expanding? Our guest for the show is Dr. Rupmati Kandekar, geopolitical analyst. Welcome to the show, Rupmati.
Hello, Ajay. Thank you for having me on your show. Always my pleasure.
Just in the way of framing the issue,
Mm.
social media is rapidly becoming the principal tool for information and political influence around the world, not just in the US or Europe. We need to know its current dynamics, its effects, and its expansion. And how will it develop going forward? Today, we'll examine those questions. So, Rupmati, let me ask you, in general, about what's going on here. My take is that there are not many social media platforms. I know of Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and now recently RedNote. Are there
Mm.
any others? And who owns them?
So, Jay, this is all digital social media that people in the world have access to, and as we know, digital has no boundaries. So the platforms that you mentioned, there are few, but they have very far-reaching holds on all the people in their mobiles, in their houses. It's a 24/7 that we are engulfed with, around, surrounded by them. You want to know what's happening, you will ask somebody. If there's nobody around, you'll go to your social media app and immediately find out what's the current news, because they have these algorithms which cater to your interests, which cater to your eyes, what you're watching. Your phone hears you, your computer listens to you. There's one clip, in a famous clip, in which Mark Zuckerberg, the founder and owner of Facebook and Instagram, the meta universe, uh, he's got a laptop on his desk, and he's taped the uh, webcam, and he's blocked the speakers, so he knows his machine is listening to him. That's the kind of access that we give social media platforms into our lives. So Jay, you've seen that in many of the browsing sessions that we have, when you speak something, when you say something, immediately the advertisements that pop up on your algorithm, or on your feed, or Facebook feed, your Instagram feed, are all catering to that thing that you mentioned. So it's like kind of they're reading your mind, and that much power they have over you. So it's a very sensitive issue in uh, the international system itself, because that is being used to influence your inclinations, your political inclinations, your social inclinations, your economic spending. So just imagine the reach that these platforms have, Jay.
That's something I hadn't thought of. It's not only who and where, it's how much of the time during the day. Like you see the videos of people standing on a street corner, holding a cell phone, walking across traffic, holding a cell phone. What do you think they're looking at? They're looking at social media. So anyway, Facebook, I think, is owned by Meta, and
Yeah.
Meta is, a recent corporate reorganization. It's the parent, and the same parent owns Instagram, and that's all Mark Zuckerberg, who lives in Hawaii, by the way, and who
Oh.
capitulated to Trump within the last couple of weeks, which we're not happy about. And this X, which is owned by whatever series of corporations, Elon Musk, he acquired that for something around $50 billion, and I thought it was a complete waste of money, but maybe not for him. And then there's TikTok, which is owned by ByteDance in China, and that's in play now. We should discuss that. And RedNote, another one owned by Chinese company. So, it seems to me from what you say, and this is important, is that in order to be able to feed you things that the system thinks you're interested in, they have to
Mm.
collect data on you. So it's not
Mhm.
just that you're engaging with whatever they're feeding you, it's that they're collecting data and they know what interests you. And the
Yes.
question is, do they all collect that data? And do they give that data to other people? Do they sell it? Do they give it to the government? Do they give it to multiple governments? It seems like it's in the universe of data. And if, for example, I'm a company in China and I want to get data from some of these others, I would pay them or not, and I would get all this data. Then I would have a cross cut of the population, and I would know how to reach people on a given point of influence. So, what about the data? I think it's important that we study that for a moment.
Yeah, Jay. So we have recent state privacy laws which have differing scopes of rights and obligations that create a fragmentary regulatory environment in our country here. And so key issues include which define sensitive data. You have the big issue of protecting minors' privacy. You have incorporating this data minimization principles. You have addressing compliance challenges, and you have adherence to these by medium and small businesses, Jay. So this kind of collection of data is so extensive, Jay, and also you have a section 230 in the law here. What is now section 230? That it shields online platforms from the liability for user generated content. So the platforms are safe, but what the data they will collect, that also becomes they're just collecting the information and the data. And you observe it that when you put up your data online, there's this huge risk of cyber security. People can access your address, people can access your telephone numbers. You get into the mailing list of so many companies, the calling list of so many companies. You have these automated data usage systems which you get into. So all these have right now no restriction. There are huge problems in the management of this data which these algorithms of these platforms collect. So big issue, less done.
Various states have various rules, then you don't have uniformity or uniform protection, I think. But let me ask you this, and I've wondered about this for a long time. You hear about these kids, and you mentioned, that there are limitations in various jurisdictions on kids and social media. You hear about these kids who are bullied
Yeah.
by either their classmates who have their social media account addresses, or and which are easy to get, uh, or by strangers who don't know them at all, and who approach them on social media and bully them or seduce them or arrange sexual engagements with them. And then once in a while, Rupmati, you hear about a suicide that some young woman, for example, 12, 13, 14 years of age, who is spending a lot of time on social media, is so unhappy with what people are saying about her. Or maybe they're, releasing compromised photos of her,
Mm,
that she commits suicide.
mm.
And I just, I don't understand that. I wonder if you can help me understand that. So make yourself into a 14-year-old, and you're spending all your time, 24 by 7, on your cell phone, looking at social media. And lo and behold, somebody is attacking you, bullying you, compromising you in some way. And so you go from there to suicide. What in the world is that process? How does that work? Why doesn't that girl just turn it off? Why doesn't she approach her parents and they tell her to turn it off? Why does she commit suicide?
Jay, it's intriguing that social media is addictive. And it's also a fact that social media is a bubble which is made up, which is generated. There is a image of what life should be, and there's a promptness associated with social media. You see what is, but you want to put yourself into that. And that creates that imbalance between reality and your real life, your real browsing. And the big issue of minors being hurt online. There's an example of the grooming gangs, the Pakistani grooming gangs in the UKJ. It's such a nuisance for the UK right now that there are these gangs operating, and they lure these small girls, especially, into these compromised photographs, into chatting, and then they blackmail them, then they lead them to suicides. And uh, it's a case of where they are trapped. And the point is simple that you say, turn it off. But what happens is the blackmailing continues, the addiction continues. You want to try to find another avenue. You want to escape from there. But it's like a meta world. Have you seen Minecraft? Have you played Minecraft? You go into that zone. You go into that gaming session. You see, there's this PUBG. There's a game, and it got so addictive that the people who used to play with it, it's a war game. Just to go out of the topic, and so many people, there's so many cases that when they're playing it, and somebody comes and just does bang to them, mentally, Jay, they get shot and they die of a heart attack, cardiac arrest, over. So they are involved that much into social media. We don't understand it because we still know paper and pen. For the young generation, they know nothing beyond the digital world. For them, maybe they don't want to go to play with outside on their bicycle or in the playground. They want to spend an hour browsing reels or watching songs. So for them, it's an entire lifestyle that they've adopted. And when you adopt a lifestyle and you get disappointed, you suicide. That hurtful, Jay.
That's very troubling.
Mm,
So anyway, one thing I want to examine with you, and that is my understanding. I mean, if I look at social media at all, I look on it on my desktop. Okay, very rarely do I look at it on my cell phone, but there are far more cell phones in the world that are on desktops, and you can find people in Tibet, who are on social media. And
mm,
my guess is that they're using the same social media that we would use: Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, what have you, maybe Red
yes.
Note too. Um, and so what you have is an explosion of social media everywhere in the world. You could find any place that has access to internet signal,
Mm,
will allow users on cell phones. In fact, cell phone signals, doesn't have to be internet, just cell phone signals, um, will allow users everywhere in every place to get on social media. This means that I could be in a rural area, say of Myanmar, and I could be affected. I could consume social media, and it's very nice about silly photos and jokes and music and entertainment. But there's also messaging that could be very destructive, and there's political influencing that could be
mm,
very destructive on a macro scale.
mm,
The problem is it starts out innocent. It starts out, compatible with the culture of that place. Then all of a sudden, there's this nefarious messaging that goes on and causes war and violence and civil strife. Am I right about that? Is there any place exempt from that?
yeah, Jay, you're point on this, because see, the word that they use is feed, FEED. Instagram feed, Facebook feed. That's what they're feeding you into. And when you see five news articles telling you what you should believe in, sixth time you feel yes, maybe it's true. So that's the kind of influence that these social media platforms put you through. And a phone, Jay, it's very personal. So it's got access to your personal space like never before. If you wanted to read news, we had to go and get a newspaper, or we had to go and turn the television on. The phone gives you notifications also. So you have something flashing in your eyes before you open your phone app also. So that kind of so much into your face, into your life business that is happening in today's world is unimaginable, Jay, because one more thing is that countries like China and India, which have huge populations, Jay, they have data which is being a few years back, say a decade back, data was very expensive to get. It was uh, now it's the cheapest data available to them. So they have a lot of time and availability of this data, which they use for. And when you have users translates into monetization for views for everybody. So you have a singer who will like his audience to be somebody from India or China who will use or like his video. He will get money for that. So it's a like a symbiotic relation that they have formed, Jay. And Only thing is you need access to internet, like you said, and a phone. So they get it.
Well, I'm reminded of the Gaza war, and I
Mm,
don't mean the one that started in October of 2023. I mean the last war. There had been multiple wars around Gaza where the Israeli troops had to go in and quell the terrorism. And I remember that they were using their cell phones on social media. It was a few years ago, to chat with their families back in Tel Aviv.
mm,
And the
mm.
Israeli government realized that no, that's not a great idea, because the enemy can see what you're saying, where you are. They can determine your location, maybe. They can see who you are and your condition, your status. And so they told the Israeli troops, "Don't do that. Please don't do that. It's dangerous for you." But it does suggest that in modern warfare, cell phone technology is essentially free, and it can be used for command control. It can be used for essentially for spying on the other side. It is definitely a weapon in any theater of war. I'm sure it's being used in Ukraine and Russia now. It's being used in what's going on in Sudan and other areas, Congo and the like in Africa, because it's free, it's cheap. Everybody has a cell phone. Go for it. And I think that the ubiquitous quality of social media is part of that. Furthermore, I think that a guy like Putin is going to use social media as a way to influence people outside of, Russia and Ukraine. Not only does he want to change public opinion in Russia, not only does he want to, hack into any communications in Ukraine, but he wants to hack and affect public opinion all over Europe. And in fact, there was news reporting that Putin, was helping Trump in this recent election,
Mm.
and for that matter, in the one in 2020, by using social media influencing. So what we have is a global system where every time you look, the borders, the boundaries are expanded, and the use is expanded, and I would say the negative aspect of it is expanded. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Jay, you mentioned a very sensitive point that it's also used in terrorism. These for locating your enemy, and phones like Apple, they have a no a disclosure law, so that if the government asks them to disclose the details of a person, they don't, because Apple to Apple phone can call FaceTime, and that is not recorded at all. So you have these kind of loopholes that the terrorists use, and locations, finding the IP addresses. These are very big points which phones give, and usage of these apps, Jay, gives gives out these location codes and all these information of what conversations are happening. So that is breach of security, that we can say, security information. And Jay, Silicon Valley used to be very it had a democratic inclination, but after you saw Elon Musk pumping in around 100 and how much he put, 118 million into the Trump campaign. You have Jeff Bezos of Amazon, Sundar Pichai of Google, all these people changing the dimension. And if Trump asked them to disclose anything, they would give it up. So privacy, online data, security, everything is compromised on this in this zone, J. So that's a very sensitive point about how it's breached, J.
Well, you raise an interesting point, and I really appreciate that. Let's take Trump for a minute. Let's take the oligarchs who he is now friendly with and who, kiss his ring. And they have that data. And he is the government or his FBI director who uh, is going to be confirmed soon, his
Mm.
nominee, and the Department of Justice, for that matter. They have decided that Trump has decided that you are on his vengeance list, and so he wants to investigate you. What better place is there but that data? That not only would they be able to find email, but they would be able to find all your traffic on social media and get a whole profile of you without standing up.
Mm,
And Trump has that ability right now, and those guys are probably giving it to him right now. So what it does is it creates an information environment which is conducive to fascism, which is conducive to dictator governance. And I think that it seems to me, I'm interested in your thoughts. It seems to me that the way these social media platforms are working now, it results in um, a better environment for the growth of dictatorship. Your thoughts?
yeah, Jay, because we have something of an uncertainty in Trump's administration, because he had described Facebook as the enemy of the people. And he said when you would ban TikTok, it would strengthen Facebook. And now he doesn't want, he has a very anti-China policy in the technology world. That's why he's appointed Mario Rubio, who's a known China hawk, for heading the Department of State Department. And so he has 60% tariffs on China exports, additional sanctions so that they have no access to the market, American market. uh, and the crackdown on Chinese telecom companies has begun since 2019. So Trump is after China. Now he doesn't know Biden banned TikTok. Now just because it has to oppose Biden, he has to bring back TikTok. And so there is this kind of what does he want to do kind of a scenario every time Trump thinks, Jay. So that is what is very confusing for us, because the moment the ban on TikTok was given, every the American user shifted to app, Chinese app, which is the little red notebook, and for short you call it Red Note, Xiangpong Pang app it is. And this, why do we move towards Chinese apps, Jay? Because 37 out of the 44 critical technologies are owned by China. They are creating the digital Silk Road, Jay. And that is where there is a now competing element of America with China. So you don't want Chinese apps, but that's the only thing available, best available thing. After TikTok, it is Red Note. So what are the alternatives that have to come out? So this is a very big problem with Trump's policy, Jay. Watch it. He wants anti-China. Everything is Chinese.
It seems to be going in another maybe unpredictable direction. So there was a statute that Congress passed and that Joe Biden signed,
Mm,
telling TikTok they had to sell or stop, and their
mm,
deadline was the 19th of January. But Trump stepped, and that was appealed to the Supreme Court. It was pending at the Supreme Court. Trump stepped in and asked the Supreme Court to delay their decision on that and to hold up. And he asked them for, I don't know, 60 days or 75 days or something to see if he could
70.
organize a sale. And that's in effect right now. I don't think it's legal, but it's in effect. So that means that TikTok is still operating. It's still operating under ByteDance, the Chinese company, and it's a status quo. At the end of that time, presumably, the statute will take effect, and I think the Supreme Court will probably give it effect, and TikTok will be out of business. And Red Note, in the meantime, is trying to replace it, at least to some extent. The problem I have with this is that Trump has said that he wants the government to buy at least a 50% share of TikTok. And Elon Musk has said he wants to buy a share of TikTok. And there are others who, we can't really feel a sense of reliability, who want to buy a share of TikTok. TikTok has, oh gosh, hundreds of millions of users, just like X does. And
Mm,
putting TikTok in the hands of the government, that means Trump or Elon Musk, and having it reach all these hundreds of millions of people, billions of people, um, trillions of people, half the world, they will have a huge effect on political messaging and thus on public opinion. So watch this space, because if Trump gets to buy it by the government, or have
Mm.
Elon Musk or his other oligarch friends buy it, we're going to pay a terrible price. In a way, it's worse than China owning it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Jay, because see, this is the kind of neck strangling that Trump is doing. That if you want to stay in the US, you have to sell it to us. We'll buy a share in it. Like in the UAE, if you want to buy a property, half of it has to be owned by the sheikhs, half will be yours on a lease basis. You can't buy it in your own name. This is the policy that Trump is using. And you remember when we had the border skirmish in India that we discussed? First, uh, India banned TikTok, Jay, in one sweep. It just banned these apps, and so now China doesn't have any other big market like the US to sustain itself, so it will go down on its knees to sustain TikTok. It will sell this 50% share that Trump is asking for, and Trump is using his business acumen to get a hold of two big social media platforms, Jay. When Elon Musk took over X, he called it as a he used it as a political megaphone. Uh, Before that, Twitter had banned Trump. Now it was being used to highlight his policies, to speak his campaign for him all over the world. Same thing he wants to do TikTok. And the relevant points that you make about formal education and TikTok being the only source of education in the minds, young minds, that is a big point that we should discuss, Jay. That how it is going to help Trump.
Sure. Well, let me go further on what I think Trump is
Mm,
interested in. Number one is this is big money. I saw one article that said that TikTok was worth 50 billion. I think it's actually
mm,
worth more than 50 billion. I mean, think of what X is worth, and all this publicity that TikTok is getting lately makes it worth more. So one is it's a business transaction, and if he can get his fingers into it somehow, or Elon Musk can get their fingers into it somehow, it will further expand in value, and that's a business. That's a transaction. The second is he can use it um, directly and through Musk to influence political opinion in the country and the world. And the world. Don't forget, we're dealing in a global market for social media. It's not just the U.S. And that's going to be more and more clear as time goes by. The third item that comes to my mind is that Trump is on a tear about cryptocurrency, and to
yeah.
the extent that he has e-sales, e-retail on this, he'll probably throw in cryptocurrency, and so his investments in cryptocurrency will go up by billions. They already have. And he'll have the government buy cryptocurrency. That's what he wanted to
Mm,
create, a reserve of government-owned cryptocurrency. So which is vaporware. But if he uses the platform, this new TikTok platform for cryptocurrency, he uses that as the currency on that platform. It'll further enhance the value of cryptocurrency, and thus, line his pockets. He wants to be the richest man in the world. And finally, I mean, I think he wants the platform so he can spy on people. And I think, there's lots of reasons why he wants it. So he's going to get it. Watch this space. He's going to get it. And that's terrifying to know that his friend X, that is Elon Musk, and X owns, how many hundreds of millions of users, billions of users, and TikTok, another huge group. This is going to be the most influential arrangement in the world. Your thoughts?
Jay, he's going to use this platform for every policy that he has to echo it. Just Trump is going to use every platform that he gets his hands on, because Jay, what plan he has got such a far-reaching ambitious plan that he's got. See, every dollar bill that we catch has got a backing of the gold reserves in Fort Knox. This cryptocurrency has got no government backing it. It's digital currency. It's unique. And when he makes the US government buy this cryptocurrency, he puts the weightage of US behind this. And so, Jay, that makes crypto all the more valuable. And I'm sure he has pre-bought these shares, these cryptocurrency, before he came into administration, so that now it will rise by, the amount is exorbitant. So we don't know what he thinks about, because he pre-plans his moves, Jay. He is never spontaneous. It's a very move which has got so many repercussions, but it's got pre-planned notions. When he wants to control cryptocurrency and make America the capital of cryptocurrency, he's targeting China. He's trying to run in ahead of China. China is trying to have the digital control, but he wants the monetary control of the digital world.
Let me add that I think he would use it for, what do you want to call it? Would use social media for expansionism, for
Mm,
aggressive attempts at controlling other countries. And it's so simple. And that's what Putin has been doing. You send social media, you engage the population of the other country and try to change their minds. And Putin has done that, and Trump will undoubtedly do that if he has control of, and he will have control of TikTok. But let me go to another thing I really need to ask you about, and that is AI. A
mm,
few years ago, when right after 9/11, the United States passed the Patriot Act. And since that original act was passed, which allowed the federal government, its intelligence agencies, to get into our telephone calls and the like without telling us, they created a FISA court, which could issue warrants to allow the government to get into our electronic data. And I think they still have that power. But that was relatively modest. We had an expert on one of our shows who told us how that worked. And
mm,
the government was hiring all the corporate guys who knew about how it worked at the time. This is after 9/11. So after 9/11 is ready. It was almost 25 years ago. And don't you think the technology has changed, both
mm,
in terms of the platform and in terms of the social media programming, the code, the functionality? Of course it has. And now,
mm.
in the last few years, we've seen AI. And there are so many advertisements and notices and announcements about advances in AI, including DeepSeek, the Chinese new and cheaper but more effective version of AI. We have AI everywhere, and there's no reason at all to think that AI is not involved in social media. As a matter of fact, it's a selling point. And I bet if
Yeah.
you went and looked at the ads for any of these, the ads would say, "Oh yeah, we're using social media." But my question to you, Rupmati, this is a hard one, is how does that change things? Does the advance in social networking analysis change things now that we have better code, better platforms, faster broadband, and now most recently AI? How does the AI change things?
Jay, it's this rapid evolution of these AI technologies has led to an explosion of your can do list. Jay. You can ask AI to perform any task, to create any imagination you want to put into visuals, or you want something to be created for you want it to design something for you in your lifestyle, you want it to monitor your activities. So AI is like a sophisticated personal assistant that they are projecting it as. But it's got so many harms also, Jay. Like you have automated decision making, you have deep fake, you have AI chatbots, you have facial recognition which can be used across. And Jay, the only thing in AI is the tussle between innovation and the kind of civil rights that it intrudes in, Jay. So we had just let's go to the legislation a little bit. That Biden had AI Bill of Rights and an executive order on AI, which established basic principles to guard your privacy and your civil rights, Jay. So he had wanted it to be regulated. And when Trump comes on the scene, he wants it to be just about competitiveness, innovation, and without the regulation. So you have two different sides of AI, and we had AI develop up to Biden's tenure in a very regulated manner. Now, with Trump on the scene, it's going to go in a very different trajectory, Jay. And that is the path that we have to focus on, because we don't know now what. Now, what will AI bring forth to our table? Will it be able to, the deep fake that is available? You can't make out the difference whether it's the person or it's another person. It's a deep fake video. So this kind of competitiveness that AI has got into different platforms that everybody that China, America is developing, they are not only maximized in their sophistication, Jay, it's just accessible to all. That is the surprising element of this AI.
Well, one of the things that seems to be emerging from this new administration post-inauguration is that he wants to control the message. And you keep hearing stories about broadcasters and broadcast facilities that are going offline or changing their tune to bend a knee for him. And he wants to control the messaging. He's attacking the First Amendment in many ways. And so when you get this combination of these three things, you get Facebook and Instagram, and Mark Zuckerberg seems to be bending a knee to him. Well,
Yes.
clearly is bending a knee. Elon Musk is his co-president. TikTok, he wants to control TikTok, and he wants to have the benefit of AI at the same time. He is going to be able to reach a lot of people with a lot of sophisticated messaging, including especially political messaging. And if at the same time he undermines the legitimate press, the mainstream press, and maybe other parts of the press too, for example, on Google Maps, I just read today, Google Maps has changed the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. So what does that tell you about Google? Okay. So anyway, I mean, I think Trump is going to control not only the messaging on social media, but he's going to diminish and manipulate the messaging, as he already does to some extent, on mainstream media. This is a real problem if you're worried about moving toward fascism. So my question now is this: what can we do about this? And the we, of course, is problematic. But what can groups who are interested in stopping this process, in controlling this propaganda machine, what can they do about it? Is there any country in the world that is actually doing anything about it, or is this all a free for all? And are we going to be subject? Are we now subject to the free for all? And what can be done? Can it, for example, the Democratic Party do anything about it? If Congress is so inclined, could they do anything about it? Because it's out there. It's out there in the nether. It's irresistible, and it's very, very influential. What can be done?
J Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, because Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, is invited to a front row seat in Trump's coronation. So that is the reason why it was done so swiftly. And Jay, we can't actually do anything about AI because it's in its inventory stage. There is a lot of innovation and infancy in this at this stage. So you don't know exactly what to control, how to control, because we don't know exactly. We are still figuring out how much can AI do. And this artificial intelligence that people warn us about, the harms are so many because it's intelligence. There's a story about how the developers were developing one app and they decided overnight that this app was not going to work, so they wanted to do away with it by morning. The app hears this and it tries to store itself on the cloud so that it nobody can delete it. And Jay, this means that the app is self uh, uh, he is self-sufficient and tries to think. The next day when the developers come and they see this, they question the app. Why are you trying to save yourself on the cloud? It answers in negative. That means it can lie too. So we have a rogue app. So what can this lead to? Can it lead to shutdown of systems? Can it lead to takeover of your electricity board? Can it lead to shutting down of trains? Can it lead to collision of trains? Can it fall in the hands of terrorists? You have these hackers who are cyber criminals. Immediately when you have such platforms which are in the cloud and digital, they can have access to them. It's easier than making bombs and blowing themselves up. They would rather become somebody on a computer and try their level best to hack somebody's railway system or somebody's transport system or government information. So the repercussions of AI development are huge. It's not even thinkable. What There are no limitations to our thoughts right now.
Well, it strikes me that at the end of the day, it's up to the user to stop the
Mm,
onslaught. And for me, I don't look at social media very much. And if I were advising somebody who was concerned about it, I would say just don't turn it on. Don't put it on your phone. Don't put it on your computer. And that would get in the way. Or find a new social media because Root Madi, there will be new ones. God knows where they will come from. They will be better. They will be more advanced. Maybe they'll be less intrusive, invasive, less sinister. I'm thinking of Substack, which is a very high level, and you could call it a social media. It's kind of an alternative to YouTube, which I worry about. Maybe if you stay alert, you'll find one that is going to be a better bet than the ones that are so popular, so globally popular now: Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok, or the
mm,
successor to TikTok. But the other option, is just not to use them anymore. The problem is, if here's a question for you: if you don't use them, are you going to be at a disadvantage in the world today? If you don't have social media, are you cutting yourself off at the ankles in any way, or
mm.
can you get along fine without it?
Jay, earlier the world before this digital innovations was where you could go out and play with your friends, and that was social. What was social? Mingling with your neighbors, mingling with your relatives, mingling with family. That was social. Now, this word of social media is that you are just social and you're interacting with only this media. This digital thing has become your family, become your zone of interaction. And that's why the dependence on social media has increased to such a huge extent, Jay, that we don't understand anything other than reaching out to social media even if they don't reach out. So the question of turning it off becomes difficult for people who have only social media to entertain themselves, to comfort themselves, or to even interact with the outside world. So this kind of grip that social media has got is like octopus with eight things, has just uh, captured every life on the planet which has a access to digital media, Jay. And this becomes very dangerous because you don't look out. You look for validation. You look for the results of a match also on social media. You don't want to go to the football field and watch the match, or you just want it to happen as soon as possible. It's very entertaining. That is the problem.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't know where it's going to go. It's going to go in many different directions, and it's going to be a tool, a weapon used by many governments as well, including Trump.
Hmm.
And we also know that you can spread hate and bigotry and violence and send very negative, destructive messages
Hmm.
on social media. So, gee whiz, it's something we have to follow. You and
Yeah.
me, Rupmati, we have to follow this. It's becoming a principal tool for political influence around the world. And if we're interested in political influence, we have to be interested in social media. Well, thank you very much, Rupmati. Rupmati Kandakar, geopolitical analyst here at ThinkTech. We appreciate all your thoughts and ideas, and we'll be following these subjects going forward. And thanks to our listeners for listening and our viewers for watching. I'm Jay Fidell, your host. Aloha.
Hello, Ajay. Thank you very much.